Lobster rolls are one of my favorite foods and probably one of America's favorite foods. So, where do you go for the best lobster roll? Well, the consensus is that Maine is one of the top spots, if not the top spot, to go get the best lobster roll you possibly can. How's it going, everyone? My name is Gavin. Welcome to Phenomenal Food. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the spots I went to in Portland, Maine to see where the best lobster roll was. After looking at Yelp and reading reviews at other places, there are 3 restaurants that really stood out. So, let's see if they're worth it or not. The way these reviews are going to work is there's going to be 2 different scores, the utility score and the actual food score. Utility will encompass these 10 different topics to determine what the overall experience will be aside from the food. Then, of course, the most important part, we'll rate the food on just pure taste. The first restaurant we took a look at is the High Roller Lobster Co. Now, I'm from SoCal. I've mostly lived on the West Coast, but I've also spent time in Virginia and Maryland. So I was very surprised at how bad parking was in downtown Portland. It's actually worse than LA. For the location, it's going to get a 3. There are hardly any meters in the area, and there is a parking garage, but of course you have to pay for it. Next, we'll go to availability. It was pretty busy in there, but thankfully we were able to get a table. Now there's a front and a back. The front's more regular traditional tables. The back is more of those high tops of very small tables. We also saw a section out back that had different outdoor seating, but it didn't look like anyone wanted to sit there since it is cold. Next is service, so unfortunately, we'll give it a 2.5. We will give it a 0.5 because the hostess was very nice, but this is all QR code. You don't have a waiter or waitress, and if you run out of water, you have to go up to the front to get some more beverage. So unfortunately, this place for service did not meet expectations. Next, we have a 5 for atmosphere. It wasn't really here or there. Different music, like one song would be Tupac, next song would be Lady Gaga. Kind of all over the place, but it wasn't too loud. Decent lighting, everyone was pretty respectful and it was in a good mood. So on average, nothing special, nothing bad, just average. Price, we'll give a 6, a little bit above average, and here's the reason. When you're looking at the menu, you can actually see that you can pick the mild lobster in there. So if you're on a budget, you can get a very small lobster roll. If you want a big hearty one, you can pay for that. So just because you can pick how much for the lobster roll, we will go with a 6. For the quality of food, it is a 7. It was pretty good. You could taste how fresh the lobster was. And it didn't taste frozen at all with that little watery undertone. It just tasted like good, recently harvested lobster. Variety will also get a 7. The menu did have a lot of different things that were in theme with a lobster shop. There's grilled cheese, there's a lobster corn dog, different types of lobster rolls. So if you don't want the traditional drawn butter lobster roll, you do have some different options. And if you don't want seafood, they did have some things to accommodate as well. Now quantity, this is a little back and forth for the pricing, but everyone was raving about the different lobster roll flight you can order. So as you can see, those lobster rolls were very tiny. So we'll give those a 4, slightly below average. Unfortunately, bathrooms, you're getting a 3. They're pretty dirty, as you can see, trash all over the place. They didn't have toilet seat cover, so we're just going to go for 3, undesirable. Comfort, since we got one of those high tops that are very small with a little chair, it'll be a 4. So overall, that gives us a utility score of 46.5, which is very slightly below average. If you're looking to get the lobster roll in a comfortable area, you know, it'll suit your needs, but what's most important is the actual food score, right? Overall, I'm going to give this a 6.5, which is between above average and pretty good. Now, I'm only judging based off lobster rolls, but it is to note we also got the fries, and they're extremely well seasoned, very fresh. Now, for the lobster rolls themselves, I did get the flight so I could try some of their different flavors. I got the drawn butter, garlic mayo, and the jalapeno mayo. So the drawn butter was very good. I don't think the lettuce was super necessary, but it was what I expected of a lobster roll. And if I only had gone that one, this would definitely be a 7. Now for the garlic aioli, I'll keep that in. And the jalapeno mayo, it just didn't make sense of the lobster. It really detracted from the flavor. But overall, it was above average. It was a pretty good lobster roll. So if you go there and you're in Portland, Maine and you want to go high roller, I definitely recommend just get a regular lobster roll, do the drawn butter, and hey, maybe get some fries as well. Next we have is Oyster Co Eventide. Now this is a very popular place for their brown butter lobster roll. Again, starting the utility score, location's getting a 3. There are maybe 4 meters in the area, and if not, you have to go to the parking lots, which are at least $15, if not more. Availability, this place was very busy. I was surprised. But they were able to get us in, and it was outside when it was a little rainy. So overall, we'll just do a 4. Service, however, the hostess and our actual waitress were very accommodating, kept checking on us, made sure we had water, answered any questions, wanted to make sure the food was good. Definitely giving them a 7. Atmosphere, we're gonna give it a 6. It's what I was expecting for a Maine lobster restaurant. Bright windows, lots of seafood-esque, different decor, and everyone was pretty friendly. So we're gonna go with 6. Price, we'll go with a 5. Everything was pretty on average. So for the amount of food you're getting, again, just average of 5. Quality, we're gonna go with 7. Again, very fresh. Everything was very impressive, but just going off the lobster roll, you could taste that the bread was recently made, the lobster is fresh. 7. Variety, we'll go with a 6, above average. They had everything that you'd expect for something close to the coast. It's a seafood restaurant with a couple things on there for vegetarians, so above average. Quantity, we're going to go with 4. Again, strictly talking about the lobster roll, as you can see, it's very, very small. So if you're just going for your dinner and getting a lobster roll, you're probably going to need 2. Restrooms are getting a 6. They had that custom soap in there, very clean. There was no toilet seat cover, so I know for some that can be a problem, but it was above average, very clean. Comfort, unfortunately, a 4. Again, they were very busy, so we had to do the outside seating, those little tables and that little bar area. Not ideal, so a 4. So rounding everything out, that gives a utility score of 53 points. That's between average and above average for the restaurant experience. But for what everyone cares about, the actual cuisine rating, for the lobster roll itself, I'll speak about the actual stews after the lobster roll. I'll give it a 6. The reason being that first bite was very, very good. Second bite is okay. Third bite, the recipe kind of got old. That bread with the brown butter almost gave like a cheese chewy texture that kind of took away from the quality of the lobster. It was interesting, but it wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but overall very good. So for the lobster roll itself, a 6. But it's hard not to be persuaded by their lobster stew and their clam chowder. Those were phenomenal. Those things would be an 8. They were very memorable, very impressive. But just for the lobster roll, we'll go 6. Now for the last restaurant of the big 3 that we visited while in Portland, Maine was Jay's Oysters that we kept seeing pop up. Starting with the utility rating, we're going to start with location once again. So Jay's is a little different because they do have dedicated parking. However, you can get boxed in there and there's very few spots. So again, you have to go back to the parking lots because there's essentially no meters on the coastline. Now, all the parking lots around the area, they charge $10 per hour with a 2-hour minimum plus a ridiculous service charge. So it's essentially $25 on top of whatever you're paying for your food, which really detracts from the experience. What we did was we actually walked about a mile away and found another lot that was, I think, $13 an hour, but saw that really ridiculous service charge. So keep that in mind. That's why all these different restaurants, since they're in the same boat, are getting a 3 for their location. Now, availability. We went on a weekday, and I was shocked at how busy it was in there. But the thing that really bothered me is they had a big outdoor patio area that they took all the seating away and stacked up the chairs and tables. And it looked like they had a lot of wait staff, so I was really confused about that. Since it was our last day in Portland, we took it to go since we had other things we wanted to do. So overall, 3. Service, since we obviously didn't sit down and eat, and the lady I spoke to get the to-go order was very polite. We'll just go average to be fair. Now the atmosphere was nothing to write home about. Everyone was packed in there, it was loud. Looked like people were pretty uncomfortable and everyone's standing around waiting for a spot, so a 3. Now price, this one was the most expensive of the 3 different restaurants at $39. And the quantity will correlate to this, but that's definitely getting a 4. But first, the quality. Unfortunately, with this being the closest restaurant since it's on the water next to all the lobster boats, I have to give this a 4. It's a borderline 4 too as well. The lobster was pretty cold and it tasted almost like it was frozen before. It has that, liquidy outer texture to it. Not impressed with it. Quantity's also going to get a 3 for how much this one was. And you can see in context to the size of the roll, there was not very much lobster in there for the price, so we're going to go with a 3. Variety, to be fair, it's what you expect from a seafood restaurant with a couple things for non-seafood eaters, so we'll give it a 5. Restrooms, since I ate to go, I didn't get a chance to see them, so because I didn't get to see them, even though the person I was with said they were pretty dirty, but I didn't see it, so we'll just go with a 5. Obviously, comfort, it's also going to be lower. We're going to go with a 4 just because how packed it is in there, and you can't really have any room to breathe once you're eating there. So overall utility score is unfortunately a 35, which is between undesirable and below average. Was not very impressed with the overall experience of Jay's. But what everyone cares about, the actual rating for the lobster roll itself, it is getting a 3. It was undesirable. The lobster, like I was saying, it was cold. It didn't taste super fresh. It was a little watery. There's a super thick piece of lettuce underneath it. And then you could see from the amount of lobster to the roll itself for the price, it just didn't make sense. And then there's also pickles in there with the chips, and there's a pickle underneath the lobster roll I had. So that pickle juice was soaking into the roll, which I don't think pickle juice and lobster really goes together. So, unfortunately, that was by far a disappointing lobster roll, and that's why it's getting a 3. Overall, if you're in Portland, Maine looking for the best lobster roll, I definitely recommend the High Roller Lobster Company. And just get the drawn butter one. Don't get all those different flavors. Just get a regular lobster roll. I think you'll be happy with that to get the real taste of what an authentic East Coast lobster is. Oyster Co Eventide, that's unique. So again, just speaking of lobster rolls, they have a unique one, which if you're going to get 2 while you're out there, you might as well go there. But make sure you try that seafood stew. Unfortunately, I would not recommend Jay's at all. Now, leaving SoCal and explicitly going to Portland just to have some lobster rolls, I was a little disappointed. Since I really enjoy eating lobster and I get them quite a bit in SoCal, I was actually surprised because I went back to my favorite restaurant in Orange County for lobster rolls, which is King's, and I was able to get my lobster roll for $36. And as you can see, it's a very hearty lobster roll. And I also got fresh bread before that, and also got a little side order of fries to go with my lobster roll. But I hope this video will help you decide where to go when you're visiting Maine and you want to get a good lobster roll. Please leave the video a like. Please leave a comment and tell me about your experiences getting lobster rolls and where your favorite is. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for other food reviews. This has been Gavin. Thank you for watching. Take care.